So till the time I rub the board, just recall everything we have discussed so far, because now we will be discussing the labeling of this diagram. I hope this is very clear to you, whatever we have done so far, the ultrastructure of chloroplast. And I hope that while doing the ultrastructure of chloroplast, you have an in-depth knowledge of what is actually there in the structure of chloroplast. I told you this organelle is very important, because due to this only plants can prepare their food, and if the plants can prepare their food, then only all the life forms can survive, because the plants are actually the ultimate source of food. So they are the ultimate source of life also, you can say that, right? So this chloroplast, this organelle is very important. After doing this detailed structure, let us see, are you now able to recall the different parts, different structures which are there in this organelle? Okay, let's begin with number 1. What you see on this outside, this is the envelope of chloroplast. And how will you label number 1? Number 1 is what? It is the outer membrane. Okay, it is the outer membrane. Next, moving on to number 2. What do you see in number 2? Number 2 is what? It is the space, right? This is intermembrane space. I know that you are able to recall, and I hope so. You have actually done it very well. You can label all the parts. Intermembrane space. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 is what? The inner membrane. It is the inner membrane. Moving on to number 4. What do you see? What do you think? How are you going to label this number 4? Obviously, after this envelope, we have the stroma or the matrix. So number 4 is stroma, or you can also call it as matrix. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 is actually one thylakoid. It is a thylakoid, a single thylakoid. Okay. Moving on to number 6. You can see this number 6 is being this marked as this area, and this region is what? This is the thylakoid membrane. Okay. Number 6 is what? It is thylakoid membrane. Thylakoid membrane. You see clearly what is being asked to you in this diagram to label. That number 5 is obviously just is the thylakoid, and number 6 is the thylakoid membrane. Look at this diagram very carefully. Just recall whatever we have done in the past few lectures and just label this diagram, so that everything is very, very clear to you. Moving on to number 7. Number 7 is what? I can write it here also. Number 7 is, what is this? This is the starch granule. This starch granule. Moving on to number 8. This is what? This is something very circular, right? What is circular in case of this chloroplast? It is a DNA, and in case of chloroplast DNA, we call it as ctDNA, that is a chloroplast DNA. Moving on to number 9. Besides starch granules, we also have what? Very important active organelles. Which are those? They are the ribosomes. They are ribosomes. Moving on to number 10. We also have what? Lipid granules. We have lipid globules. Not call them granules, lipid globules. Okay, lipid globules in the chloroplast, stroma or matrix. Moving on to number 11. This whole structure, as you can see in the diagram, this whole structure is known as what? It is known as a granum. What is it known as? It is known as a granum, because it is actually the collection of these discoid thylakoids. So outer membrane, then intermembrane space, then inner membrane, then stroma or this matrix, then number 5 we have this one thylakoid, number 6 is this thylakoid membrane, then we have starch granule, this chloroplast DNA, then ribosomes, lipid globules, and this complete granum. So after labeling this, I hope this ultrastructure is very clear to you in greater detail, and you will be able to attend each and every answer when you attempt in the examination. and regarding this ultrastructure of chloroplast, because we have done in greater detail, and just draw this diagram in your notebooks at your places and label each and every part, and just recall what we have discussed so far in this context of ultrastructure of chloroplast.